All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. So today I'm going to be breaking down 3 baits that I like to use during the fall when we get a lot of rain. So, depending on where you're at in the country, you may notice right now you've got a lot of rain in here recently. And we're kind of going to go over the areas that these fish like to migrate to during the fall when we start getting a lot of rain, the fall turnover's happening. There's just a bunch of stuff going on right now. But either way, these 3 baits will catch you a lot more fish, whether you're fishing, a little bit of stained water or if you're fishing super muddy water. So stay tuned. This is something you don't want to miss. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna talk about like from the surface down. So like what I'm gonna use, like if I'm trying to target fish at the surface, if I'm trying to target them in that mid depth, whether that's 15 foot on your lake or whether that's 25 foot on your lake. But either way, the very first one that I really like to use in fall, it's a great springtime bait, but I highly suggest throwing it during the fall, and that's a buzzbait. Okay, so I typically rig the toad up on the back. You can put a swim bait, you can just buy the skirt one. Just depends on what you want to do, but the main focus is shad. So this time of year, whether you're fishing a blueback herring lake like I'm fishing right now, or if you're fishing just your typical threadfin gizzard shad fishery, a lot of times when we start getting a lot of those fall rains, you're going to see a huge migration of fish moving the backs of these pockets. Okay, and we're not far from the main lake. I mean, the main lake's literally just like 200 yards from me right here. So but either way, there's tons of shad in this pocket. There's a pocket right next to it and a pocket on the other side of it, and they're just loaded with shad. There's still not a huge population of bass. I caught one school coming out of this pocket in particular. There's probably like 10 in that little wolf pack, but they were decent sized fish, good 2.5 pound fish. Spotted bass. But I typically stick to my black and white buzz baits. That's it, just black or white. Typically I'll throw a white one. If I can't get bit on it, I'll swap to the black one, but typically I'm going to throw that black one on days like today where we got a lot of cloud cover. Okay, the white one, I'm typically on those bright blue sunny days, super muddy water, I'm typically going to focus with that white one, but I'm using this bait as I'm going up in these pockets basically and just covering tons of water. Non-stop trolling motor on 7, just rolling all the way to the back, coming back around, going back out, going to another pocket. It's just an efficient way to cover a lot of water in a short amount of time. And typically a buzzbait, you're going to get bigger reaction bites off of it. I don't know why, but the fish just absolutely hate buzzbaits. But there's a couple that I like to use. I do like the booyahs. Booyahs are really good. And then the war eagles. The war eagles are a very good buzzbait. And then also the Strike King. Okay, this one, the Strike King, the reason I wanted to show y'all this one, it's got a really flat head on it and you can skip this buzzbait really well. So those are typically the 3 buzzbaits that I skip to. You don't have to buy a whole crap ton of colors unless you just want to, but I'm typically black and white. That's it. That'll about mimic everything you can imagine. Plus I'm typically throwing this in that stained or muddy water. All right, so let's talk about like that mid to surface depth. Okay, so maybe they're not committing to the buzzbait, maybe they're not wanting to come up, but you see a few follow it or something like that. They want something kind of right below the surface. That's typically when I'm going to throw a spinnerbait. So this is the Spot Sticker Mini Me Double Willow spinnerbait, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but the blades are actually painted. One side's solid white with some glitter in it, and then the other side's that purple with white in it. And that just puts a lot of contrast in the water. You can cover tons of water with a spinnerbait, move it quickly, efficiently, and effectively, especially around cover and stuff. But it's very hard to burn this bait out. And what I mean by burning that bait out is while you're reeling it, it's very hard for the spinnerbait to roll and stuff like that and burn out, like where the blades are not kicking and it's not working properly. That's the reason that I highly suggest the Spot Sticker and the War Eagle spinnerbaits, because they're very hard to burn out, certain ones by the War Eagle. But if you're really on a good spinnerbait bite where you just need to cover a lot of water and move that bait super quick, the Mini Me Double Willow spinnerbait is a perfect I don't really know of any other spinnerbait that comes close to it. If you do, drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to give a different one a try, but either way, you know, you're getting back up in these pockets, and maybe, you know, it's muddy from either boat traffic or, you know, that fall rain that we were talking about. The painted blades really come into a huge factor. I mean, I can tell a huge difference if I'm just throwing like a gold bladed spinnerbait, or if I'm throwing just, you know, a white with maybe, you know, a silver blade and a gold blade. But, you know, I can tell a huge difference in the bite. Having that double contrast, and then the bait itself, which is, you know, this right here, it just looks like a school. It just looks like a school coming through the water, and they're in that mud line. And, you know, that's the biggest thing I can tell you about using a spinnerbait this time of year. When you're going to fish a pocket like this, you know, there's a mud line right up against the bank that comes out maybe 10 foot in some places. Sometimes it's like 5 foot. But, you know, throwing that spinnerbait in the mud line and then bringing that spinnerbait out typically triggers a lot of bites, because those wolf packs will like hunt around the edge of, you know, the little mud line there. So, you know, bringing that spinnerbait out of the mud line, if you're fishing by yourself, you can kind of just line up on the mud line and just cast all the way down the side of the mud line. So there's just multiple different things you can do. But, you know, like I said, painted blades, some type of painted blade spinnerbait. Like I said, I just highly suggest Spot Sticker. I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that, but either way, I highly suggest a painted blade spinnerbait for covering tons of water, that mid to, you know, surface depth. Now, another one that I want to talk about, this is the Thunderhawk Sergeant Lipless Crankbait, okay? If you notice, it's white with that blue with the red eyes. It's got the red lip on it. There's a lot going on here, and, you know, it may look like a, you know, you may be like, what do you mean there's a lot going on? Well, simply because, you know, that white puts off a lot of contrast in that mud, and then also you've got the red, which also puts off a lot of contrast, and it makes the fish easier to target it. So I'm typically going to run this one, you know, in the muddy water, okay? Rattle, this isn't the silent. I highly suggest the rattle. But either way, you know, throwing this bait up in the mud, muddy water, super muddy water, I'm typically not going to throw the rattle in like just slightly stained water. I'm typically going to go to the silent, especially this time of year, because they're real used to seeing it. But, you know, getting back up in these pockets and stuff where that super muddy water is, I'm typically going to throw this in that super muddy water, and then I'm going to burn that bait through there and let it fall. So what I mean by that is I'm going to burn that bait, pause it, burn that bait, pause it, burn that bait, pause it. And a lot of times that'll just trigger a lot of reaction bites, and it kind of puts off a sound, but like not too much, if that makes sense. So, you know, the red, like I said, puts off contrast, and I've noticed with this bait, a lot of times they'll target that front hook, I guess because they're targeting the red. So, you know, either way, guys, that's like 3 baits that I'm typically going to throw basically all fall, anytime the water's muddy. I mean, you can just cover a lot of water, and it makes it like super efficient. Because that's one thing y'all got to understand in the fall, especially, well, just in my opinion, you've got to cover a lot of water. These fish are moving like fast. I mean, like this pocket right here, like I said, that wolf pack was in and out of that out of this pocket in like just a few minutes. So, you know, if you're sticking to one spot too long and you're not getting bit, doesn't mean there's not fish there, but if you're sticking to one spot way too long and not getting bit, make sure to move, cover a lot more water, find those fish that are in those wolf packs, like I was talking about hunting. Okay, if they're in a wolf pack and they're moving, what I mean by a wolf pack is there's several fish and they're constantly moving. What they're doing is they're going down these mud lines, they're going down these steep banks, and they're looking for shad that's pushed up, you know, close to the bank, because it's easy for them to feed. Even on blueback herring fisheries like I'm on now, these fish here, if it hasn't already happened by the time this video drops, here very soon, you're going to see a huge migration of the fish from the main into these pockets. And what I mean by that is all those fish that are typically out there, like 40 to 50% of them is going to move back here, and they're going to be super easy to catch. So if you're not on a blueback herring fishery, like one of the other lakes that I fish a lot, That's already happening right now. You can go up in these pockets, you can go up in these creeks that have pockets in them, and you can just smoke fish on spinnerbaits and swim baits and stuff like that, because they've already transitioned to that. So here soon, that's going to be going on right here on your herring lakes and stuff like that. So either way, guys, I really appreciate you stopping by. If the video helped you at all, make sure to like, subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions about anything. Always glad to answer y'all. I love talking fishing with y'all. So if you just want to talk fishing, drop a comment also. You know, this video is sponsored. We'll talk about Thunderhawk Lures. If you want to support me, if you want to support that company, they make great products. Check out their website at checkout. You see Posey 20, you'll get 20% off, and it helps me out a whole lot. Also, we're working with Salty Captain. So Salty Captain, I use them to clean my boat, my truck, all different kinds of stuff. They make great products, very affordable, easy to use stuff, very simplistic. But either way, you know, go to their website, see what you need. At checkout, use Colton 15, all caps, and Colton 15 in all caps, and you'll get 15% off, and it helps me out a whole lot. But either way, guys, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.